Good afternoon. My name is Dave Zeke. I'm a regent, but in this capacity, I'm also chair of the Presidential Search Advisory Committee. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues on the committee. Let me look around. The chair of the Faculty Senate, Professor Louisa McKenzie, Ricky Hall, who is the diversity director for the university, runs the Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity, and my colleague Constance Rice, who's also a regent. Today we're going to be also joined by a representative of our search firm, SP&A Executive Search. Alberto Pimentel is with us today. He's a founding partner in the firm. I'd like to begin with a few words of context and then pass the baton to Alberto for further context. Also with us, I should have said, is Tyler Lang, Secretary to the Board of Regents. Selecting a university president is the most important responsibility of the Board of Regents. Many members of the UW community are familiar with searches for faculty members, deans, or even the provost, all of which include an open opportunity to meet and evaluate finalists in a more open environment. Presidential searches are different. They are traditionally closed nationwide. That's the common way to do that in order to attract candidates who might not otherwise apply if their candidacy was going to be made public and they were not successful. For the last 40 to 50 years, no presidential search at the University of Washington has been open, and I just wanted to note that difference between faculty appointments and this appointment. This means that your input today is crucial. Your perspectives will shape the leadership profile that guides the Presidential Search Advisory Committee. It'll be the same profile that attracts candidates to the UW and helps to shape the rubric by which the committee will evaluate potential candidates before we make a recommendation to the board. The search profile is not disclosed completely to the candidates because we want to question them to see if they live up to what we're looking for without disclosing to them in advance some of the elements that we're going to be searching for. The board has been listening since earlier this summer. We have listened to senior leaders, formal representatives of students and faculty groups, and other stakeholders. We are listening to the results of the all-campus survey as well. Today, we are here to listen to your comments, and for that, we thank you. As you make your comments, I would ask you to consider the following. Not just what matters to you as an individual, to your group, or your constituency, but what matters to the University of Washington as a whole. The president is the outward face of the university, responsible for representing the UW to stakeholders across the state and the world, but is also the ultimate executive officer for the university, working with faculty to administer academic operations and also being personally responsible for choosing the leadership of large public serving areas within the university, such as UW Medicine. The other things I would ask you to consider are what sort of tone do you hope a new president will set? Which characteristics might help a new president to succeed at the UW? Which successes and challenges might a new president be unaware of if they're not familiar with this part of the country or this university in particular? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Alberto for brief additional context. Alberto.
Right. So as we spend time together today, please know that the information you share is really rather vital to our success in recruiting. The more accurate we are in representing the opportunity here at the university, the stronger the candidate pool. Know that the information will not only be shared in terms of the written format, it also helps educate my team and helps bring the committee up to speed so that we're all on the same page, so that we are looking for the same type of candidate as you would like to see presented to the board later in the process. The questions that we're going to have for you are meant to get the conversation started. They're not meant in any way to limit the discussion. So there may be topics that you wish to explore with us that are absolutely relevant to the position, but we just haven't asked about it. If that's the case, please feel free to explore those topics with us. You'll see that we'll be taking notes. Please know that we're not keeping track of who says what. We are simply keeping track of the content of the information that you're sharing so that we could capture it accurately when it comes down to developing both the profile as well as making our presentation to prospective candidates. We are going to begin by asking you questions that deal with the challenges, and then we're going to move to the qualities that you would like to see, and then we'll move beyond that into other areas. Again, we want to encourage you to be creative and to think about those areas and issues that are most pertinent and important to you and to this university as we begin this dialogue together.
Alberto, could you talk as well, just briefly, about what the University of Washington looks like to an outsider from your perspective? They've been involved in executive search at universities for a long time, so they have a kind of an outsider's scope on the University of Washington, but you also have experience with us. And then would you talk about the other searches with which we're probably most competitive?
Yeah. So currently, the landscape of higher education has changed dramatically. And that is particularly true over the last 2.5 to 3 years. There have been dozens and dozens of presidential searches at R1 institutions, which is what this university is. And if we define it more closely to AAUs, you'll find that more than 2/3 of them have brand new presidents as of the last 4 years. When we look at the entire landscape of R1s, there are roughly 146 R1 institutions. Approximately about 100 of them have conducted presidential searches in the last 4 years. So the turnover has been significant. That same turnover can be seen also at the provost level. And if we look at the dean level, you'll see something very, very similar pattern altogether. And so as we think about the future of this search, we have to make sure that we position ourselves in the strongest way possible. A few months ago, I mentioned that there are going to be about 8 searches kicking off in the fall, and then it went from 8 to 10, 10 to 12, and the number keeps growing, as just recently Brandeis announced that their president stepped down. And there are a couple of other presidents that are going to be stepping down in the next couple of months. So all those, Brandeis is an AAU institution, and so you'll see that there's a series of universities that are AAU and R1 that are going to be competitive in this process for the talent that remains. And so it's going to be incumbent upon us to make sure that we present the strongest package possible. Now, that said, we do have the advantage that the university has a wonderful reputation in the overall landscape of higher education. And so we're already getting calls from individuals wanting to talk about the institution, what the opportunities might be. It helps that Anna Mari is someone that folks across the country know and respect, and having someone of that caliber really does help set the stage for a wonderful recruitment. This is viewed as one of the prize jewels in this season, primarily because of the strength of the university, the research of the university, and then the strength of the academic health sciences. The location is also viewed as a very, very positive location. People want to come to Seattle. And the fact that the university, from the outside looking in, is just done so tremendously well under the leadership of Anna Mari, that it really does serve as a wonderful calling card to those individuals who are both sitting presidents and sitting provosts who are interested for new challenges. And so we start with a very positive situation, and what we want to do is build upon that over the course of the next several months.
Okay, thank you, Alberto. Let me turn now to Tyler Lang, Secretary of the Board, to welcome each commenter in turn. Mr. Lang, if you would.
Thank you, Regent Zeke. Welcome, commenters. I think that Regent Zeke and Alberto have given you a lot of things to think about, and the board and the Presidential Search Advisory Committee looks forward to hearing from you. I will call you in the order in which you have signed up. First is Rongzi Chow. Owen Johnson. Toprak Yildirim. Sophia Dahl. Ariana Flawell. Kylie Gray. Tricia Schroeder. Then Lisa Jones-Engel.
Lisa, if you'd like to come forward, there's a microphone here.
Please.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Lisa Jones-Engel, and for 17 years I was a member of the University of Washington community as a primate scientist, as a professor in the Department of Anthropology, as a member of the Animal Oversight Committee, the IACUC. In 2019, I resigned my positions at the University of Washington, and for the last 5 years I've been PETA's Senior Science Advisor on primate experimentation. As UW looks for its next president, it's critical to recognize both the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead, because 63 years ago, UW's leadership agreed to establish a primate research and breeding center. And this was during an era when the scientific community really heavily relied upon primate experimentation, with very few alternatives being available. Capturing and importing apes and monkeys from Asia and Africa and South America, cramming them into metal cages, breeding them in conditions and climates that guaranteed failure, animal suffering, disease, and deaths, these were the norms then. But in the decades since, society and science have transformed. And what was once accepted as a quote-unquote necessary evil is now understood to be scientifically flawed, ethically indefensible, and increasingly irrelevant. And the biomedical landscape has also dramatically evolved, particularly in the last 5 years, when human-relevant, human-centric technologies now offer groundbreaking ways to develop treatments without relying on animal testing, particularly without relying on primates. And so the next UW president must have the vision to embrace these advancements and the courage to break from the entrenched, outdated practices that have gripped the University of Washington. This will require leadership that prioritizes innovation over tradition and science over the status quo. And there are real opportunities and precedents here. In 2011, the National Academies of Science declared chimpanzees, our closest human relatives, unnecessary for biomedical research. And just a few years later, Harvard, the global leader in research, closed its primate center that had been established, recognizing that it was a barrier to future progress. The University of Washington now faces a similar choice: move forward or remain stuck in the past. The pigtailed and the long-tailed macaque monkeys that we use now are, like chimpanzees, categorized as endangered by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And continuing this type of research not only tarnishes UW's reputation, but risks the university's standing as a leader in scientific innovation. The next UW president must be bold. They must bring this bold leadership, a commitment to ethical integrity, and the willingness to confront difficult choices. This is a pivotal moment for UW. It can align itself with the future of science, fostering the culture of innovation and progress, and rather than clinging to these outdated methods, the next president must lead the way and not just follow the old paths that have been here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Lisa? Okay, thank you. So would anyone else in the room like to comment? Yep. No? Okay.
Hello, hi everyone. Abraham Flaxman, AB for short. I am an associate professor in the Department of Health Metric Sciences and Department of Global Health. I came because I'm a faculty senator, and I offered to bring whatever my colleagues wanted you to know if they were too busy at the beginning of the quarter to make it themselves. Unfortunately, they were also too busy at the beginning of the quarter to tell me what they wanted you to know, and that's why I'm not signed up. But I saw the opportunity to share something, and I thought I would present some off-the-cuff thoughts on what I think they would want, or were they able to share with you. I think that the University of Washington has this really unique opportunity as being sort of the best computer science school for a medical school of its size, and the best medical school for a computer science department of its stature. And so I think that's a really great opportunity, both for bringing in a visionary president and for that president to make a difference here at the university. When thinking about what I think will be of value to my colleagues, I think somebody from the UW would be great with them if we could find someone, and if not, someone who's been in our own academy, someone who has experience in the university setting, I think will be something really valued by my colleagues. I think that there's a lot of importance to academic freedom in the kinds of global health metrics work that we do. It's putting the numbers together, and that always makes someone unhappy. But the reason we're able to do it here, and the reason the group that I work with that does it here got thrown out of the WHO for doing it, is because academic freedom protects their ability to present these sometimes uncomfortable findings. I wish I had known I would have a chance to address this esteemed audience and had prepared more to share. I think, this is a really big challenge, as you heard about how much turnover there has been in university professorships in the last few years. And so you've got a really important and challenging job on your hands, and I thank you for taking it on.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Professor Flaxman?
I had a question. It doesn't seem we're going to be overwhelmed with commenters or questioners. So I had a question. I think one way to help us in our search is to find out what we don't want. You've been around a while, given the position, the title that you shared. So I'm making a presumption you've seen a lot of people who don't do this job well, or you've seen a few. What are the things that we should avoid? What have been the factors when you looked at maybe failed or unsuccessful presidencies that you would warn us away from?
Well, it comes back to that experience with academia. And I think the flip of that is this is very unfamiliar to people coming from the private sector. If you're used to being the CEO of a private company and telling people what to do and seeing them do it, this is going to be a very frustrating place to try to employ that approach. And on the other hand, if you've been through the academy and are used to this kind of, leading by following, leading through consensus, bargaining from a position of weakness that comes up a lot in the academic setting, I think that's what sets someone up for success in this role. Another really important part of this, and you all know this, but it's good to get it written down, is fundraising. And I think that a very important role for a university president is getting out there and raising money for the university, be that in the state legislature, with the feds and the different opportunities that we have for federal funding, with private philanthropic donors, from large foundations, from small families that love the university. And I think everyone who goes for this kind of position should know how important that is. So it's a risk I would flag thinking about your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I am so delighted that you took the time to come here in person, and especially that you are thinking about how to get broader faculty input and that you have been trying to galvanize fellow senators. I would really welcome your thoughts on how we can kind of maximize faculty input in this critical need.
Well, you asked me to.
Hang on just one second. Professor McKenzie, if you don't mind repeating that for the microphone so that UW video can pick
Sure,
that up.
so,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the record, I was just expressing my gratitude for AB's showing up and taking the time in this very busy start of the quarter, but also thanking him for trying to kind of activate faculty senate channels for input and wondering if he had thoughts for how to maybe tip the scales a little bit in favor of more faculty input this week.
I mean, the personal requests from you and from Gautam are what got me here. And I think that didn't work for everyone you asked. But that's, I think, if that didn't work, I don't know what more we can do. I think that the idea of going to Bothell and Tacoma is solid, and so I can hope, but we'll see if, being the second week of classes and being local to them, we'll get more of that faculty out. I think you would know better than me how the survey response has been, but for me, it was a lot of open-ended questions, which looked like it would require a lot of thinking it through to really give you a good answer. And so I think that could be reducing the response rate if you did a add-on that said, just pulse survey, yes, no, or strongly agree, disagree. Maybe that could get professors to do it and just tell them it's so important, it's only going to take 5 minutes because everyone's so busy. Any excuse that we have to not do something else, I understand why people take it. But yeah, I think we got to try.
And for the benefit of anyone listening on the live stream, that there is a listening session on the Seattle campus in the Hub tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then there is a listening session at Bothell at 2:30 and Tacoma on Wednesday at 9 a.m. So if you're listening, there are opportunities.
The other thing I wanted to comment on, it came up a time or two, even as we've started this discussion. It is early in the quarter, and people are extremely busy, and we get that. From the perspective of all the competing searches that are happening around the country, many of those campuses were competing against, I think, a dozen or 13 other campuses, and most of them started on a semester system. So in some ways, they're ahead of us. We started working early in the summer to try to get a bunch of the groundwork done so we could catch up and not be behind them, because we don't, if there are going to be, let's say there are 25 excellent candidates out there for these 13 spots, we don't want everybody else to get there necessarily sooner. So we want to be appropriately in that mix to get our work done and find the best candidates we can. So it does, I'm sorry that it puts a little extra pressure on us, but that's why we're doing it so early in the quarter. We didn't do it to make the lives of professors more difficult. We did it because we think we need to get going. And we're trying many other, as we've discussed, surveys and other ways of getting input. So appreciate you coming today and your comments.
Thank you.
And
Great.
let's have Gotham come up.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
have a microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regent Rice has summoned
Dr. Reddy.
Professor Reddy.
Well, let me.
Hello.
I
Good afternoon.
don't want it to appear as a summons.
Invited. Invited
yeah.
Dr. Reddy.
Yes.
So I'll just say a few words. So I'm Gautam Reddy. I am a professor in the School of Medicine in the Department of Radiology. And currently I am the secretary of the faculty, and I was the Senate chair 2 years ago. So first of all, thank you so much for coming and listening. I actually sent an email to 5,000 faculty this afternoon at about maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock. But it was probably too late for this session, but I'm hoping that a few of them will get the reminder that we have these. It was a follow-up to the email that came from, the official email that came from you. So I've already had the chance to speak to the search firm, but maybe I want to reiterate and add a few more things, which is, first of all, the faculty really care about this search, and despite the small numbers that we have, people are talking about it, people do care, and the most important thing is we want the search committee and the board to remember always that the faculty are at the core of the university. Of course, we serve our students, we serve the public at large, but we are what keeps it going at a very high level. And we draw faculty from all over the world because this is a world-class institution. So it's critical for us to have a president who puts faculty at the center in terms of empowering us to make sure that they work well with shared governance, that they understand the importance of shared governance, that they support the research and the scholarship the faculty are doing, to mentor, to make sure that we have great mentorship programs, and that we can do our best for our students and for the public at large. one of the wonderful things about our current president, Kause, is that she is a scholar. She is a wonderful teacher. She knows what we go through on an everyday basis, what we do on an everyday basis. And she is, despite having been in administration for several years, she's in touch. So that's a key aspect of what people like and respect about her. And that she doesn't have a corporate mindset or a corporate approach or a corporate presence. It's much more of a down-to-earth and scholarly presence that she has. She cares so much about students, so we really want someone who cares about students. She sits with students who protest, the ones who chain themselves to the fence near the power plant. She sat there, she went on the weekend, she sat there for a long time and talked to them with the students in the encampment. She did better than almost any other president in the country in terms of balancing the students, listening to the students, and yet at the same time making sure that the university was functioning. And it wasn't perfect, but there's no way to be perfect in that situation. We need someone who will listen to faculty and students, yet let us do our, perform our major function and have the academic freedom that we need to be a great, to continue to be great. We have so many great things about this university, yet it could be even better. We haven't achieved our potential. I always say our best days are ahead of us. They're not behind us. We have so much to offer. Someone who sees the big picture and brings people together and inspires. So it's a tall order, but you know, we have resource limitations, but we can do better in terms of faculty salaries, in terms of recruitment. There are a lot of innovative things that we can do. No one person can do it on their own, but they can empower others. So thank you.
Are there any questions for Professor Reddy?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questioners or commenters?
Do we have? Proceed.
Seeing none.
Is there, just confirming that,
Are we finished? Margaret, is there anyone waiting out there? Okay,
okay.
then I think we've concluded this session.
No further wishes? Do we? Yes, please, please.
Please, yes.
Hello, my name is Lance Forche, and I'm a teaching professor of ASL, and in the ASL minor studies department. And I've been here for the last 17 years, working in the Department of Linguistics. So it's an amazing department. It's very supportive. And I've also been teaching ASL for 30 years altogether, 17 here at the university. I started here back in 2007. And at that time, the ASL classes had never had, or they had never had ASL classes at that time. And in the year 2000, the University of Washington finally accepted ASL transfer students from other colleges to come here. So that was finally set up at that time. There were other universities that had it, but not here. And then 2007, sorry, hold on for the interpreter. Back in 2007, that was established. And we had, at that time, we set up a program. We had 2 years of ASL. Now there's up to 3 years of ASL you can take here. And as I've been teaching at the university level, I've noticed some things that have been accepted here and some things that have been resisted as well. And I've had to go on and explain the importance over and over again. And I've seen a lot of change in general. So there's a lot more understanding now of ASL as a culture as well as a language. And then just overall the university changing and there being a lot more acceptance to that. And also with the disability studies also, I have a lot of connections with there as well. So we've been able to establish those connections and relationships. And the world languages, I feel like, is very important, you know, for humans to be supporting, or I'm sorry, in general, you know, we have a lot of support for technology and business and things like that, but the world languages is helpful to people also to be able to understand, to be more inclusive of different diversity, to be able to adapt to different situations. And then also within the deaf community, there's a lot of oppression with our language, and deaf children learning sign language, there's a lot of oppression that still happens with that. A lot of times there's just a focus on English only instead of learning sign language as well. But sign language could be such a great benefit for children in the way that their mind is able to focus. And so it's really important that we have those things also in our community. And hang on one second, I'm just gonna look at my notes. Okay, also with modalities, with language, with sign language or spoken language, the way that it changes the brain, it really helps the brain to grow and adapt, to be able to communicate and be aware of different cultures. And the globalization that's happening, if you meet other people out in the world, you need to have different languages to be able to communicate. And I'm noticing, like at the college now, sometimes the world language programs at colleges are going away for more focus on business, technology, and that sort of thing, while putting world languages aside. So that's one of my concerns, is, you know, that happening. As a world language teacher, as a deaf person, I feel like, you know, it's very important that the president that we have has that emphasis on humanities and diversity, and how that all affects everything globally and at the University of Washington and our graduates here. And having that understanding, the world languages, also with people who have disabilities or people who are deaf and face oppressions. You know, there's a lot of different, so we're talking about like different majors that are at the university. But we really need that structure of world languages, and we really need that to be available for people and for the deaf community. So that's sort of my thoughts that I want to throw out there that are important for them to understand for the presidential search. Is I want to make sure that it's somebody who understands diversity, understands culture, understands language, the importance of having that foundation of language for the world, for our global community, you know, and that, you know, we can't have business and technology if we don't have the humanity with it also. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Professor Forche?
Just really appreciate the presentation. Very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Great. I saw one further person come in the room. Do you wish to comment?
I will
Please,
take a moment.
come up.
Please.
Hi, thanks for the work that you're doing. I'm Jennifer Reesink. I'm a professor in biology. And I honestly came mostly to hear the discussion, but also because I really do feel like it is incumbent upon the faculty who are doing a lot of the work at the university to be present at the stage where we have some input. So just thanks for this listening session. And what I have heard so far, right, is just a little snippet, and really appreciate the perspective of the university as a place for diverse and global learning. And we'll echo that from a biology perspective as well. And then really the one thing that I did want to say is I feel like it may be the case, probably for me at least, that I have some complacency about the presidential search because we just had a president who came up through the ranks as a scholar and academic leader and who placed so much importance on the university's role within the community and as a place for productive disagreements. And I say from a place of complacency because I would like to see that model perpetuated. And since we've just had one, there's nothing to fight against or react against, but to ask that, or to at least express a really heartfelt sense that the leadership that we've had at the university has been really amazing through a very tough time and has continued to balance a whole bunch of perspectives that the university has. Don't always agree with all the outcomes, but I think just in general has really kept learning and public service at the center. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Professor Rusink?
What kind of biology professor?
I study mud. I study the organisms that live in mud. Yes, I do a lot of field work, and I'm grateful for a flexible academic position that allows me to research and teach.
I'm always interested to hear the subsets.
Yes,
of,
there are
of
many.
research and stuff, particularly the subject like biology, which is so broad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Great.
it.
Thanks.
I believe that concludes those who wish to comment. Please.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sienna Gerard. I'm a student and student leader from UW Bothell. And I just wanted to say that I think what students want to see, or at least what I want to see, is someone who will listen to students regardless of their position or their major or their campus, and who will genuinely have their best interest in mind when it comes to decision making that affects almost everyone. And also someone who wants to support and advocate for students, ensuring their well-rounded success in their academic journeys and in their personal growth while on our campuses. Students face a lot of barriers to become students at UW and to continue their education here. So someone who wants to make higher education and degree completion more accessible for current and future students. And as a student leader, like seeing those perspectives within other students, my friends, family, people like that, I think it's really important to have a leader who wants to prioritize that as a part of their mission and being at the college. Yeah, that was it.
Thank you.
I'm glad you came forward. What is your major?
I'm a law, economics, and public policy major.
Excellent. What year?
This is my first year in the UW system. I did running start, so transfer, but third year.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that concludes those wishing to comment. To all who came, I would like to thank you. Regent Zeke?
Yeah, I was going to ask the student, the Bothell student, did you drive down from Bothell today to see us? Yeah. Thank you for doing it. I'm glad you did and appreciate the effort it takes sometimes to get here. Some of us are, for some of us it takes a little longer than others, but I just wanted to appreciate the effort that you put into being here today. I think this session is concluded. We're picking up tomorrow. Can you give those times again, Tyler? We're at this campus, Bothell, and then on Tuesday and, on Wednesday in Tacoma, I think.
The next listening session is in the Hub Lyceum at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The Bothell listening session begins at 2:30 p.m. in the North Creek Events Center. And the Tacoma listening session on Wednesday begins at 9 a.m. in 110 Milgard Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Our business today is concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.